It's been 1 year since my last video on Solasta 2, and now we're back to it. But this time hands-on with the pre-alpha build of the game, ahead of early access. And right off the bat, I have to say this. The game has improved noticeably. But, given the fact that it is still very much under development, things are subject to change. I didn't encounter many, but bugs are still present. There are also missing features, some of which will be added and some of which are more of a personal preference that I wish the devs will add or change. I will go over them later on in the video. But let's get to it.
Your loving mother, Mahin.
The first major difference from the demo is that this time we get to finally create our own party members. The character creator goes quite in depth. We get to choose the class, the ancestry, the background, abilities, proficiencies, spells, looks and personality for each character.
I thought I heard movement, maybe saw something, but I wasn't sure.
Editing the looks itself has quite a lot of freedom to it. I spent over an hour just to make 2 characters, and I was doing it in a hurry to try the game. I guarantee you will be spending a lot of time here too. Though I will say that I don't know how much of a fan I am of the face shaping system that they chose for this editor. It will make it very hard for 2 players to use the same face, but it's not super easy to use. You basically have to pick between 3 head models and then use the pointer slider to blend them together until you find the right looks for you. So that in itself can take quite a bit of time. That aside, it's a strong character editor overall. There is even an option that autofills your entire party, if for whatever reason you don't want to create 1 or more characters, so props to the devs. The second major difference is that now we have access to the game's world. Once fully done with the prologue, we will be thrown out into the world, with freedom to go and explore where we please, for the most part. The early access has some obvious restrictions to it, even though they still expand as the story goes on. The world map uses a similar system to the one that was present in the first Solasta, except this time we can find random events and side quests in basically every single location. Some of these random events even being tied to actual side quests. Always make sure to read journal entries. When it came down to random events that involved combat, they were a bit annoying at times, as some of them, while they give you the opportunity to hide and ambush, they don't always give you the chance to straight up avoid them. You can still walk out of them if the enemies end up not spotting you, but it remains annoying because you are loading in and out of the map twice, and it's a bit of a waste of time in that case. And speaking of the random combat encounters, I wish there were a bit more variation between the maps pool, but I do understand that designing many of them is a big task, and at the end of the day it's not really a big issue. On to other aspects, let's move to graphics and performances. The game looked very good in the demo already, but it came with a heavy performance cost and some graphical issues. Now, I am pleased to report that most of it has been fixed and improved. The game looks even better now, and runs fairly well. It's still definitely on the heavier side when it comes to performances, depending on the situation, but I recall having to play the demo last year with my set settings on medium-low, and now, although I admit I have been using frame gen, I can run it with everything on ultra and native anti-aliasing, resulting in crisp visuals without a single trace of ghosting or artifacts. There have been some visual glitches here and there, just like in the demo, but to a much smaller degree, so I expect them to be fully ironed out during the course of development.
New friends.
When it came to music, it is nice, fitting and pleasant to the ear, just like it was in the demo. It evokes a good fantasy adventure feeling. Unfortunately though, it's still a bit lacking when it comes to the amount of tracks, which I understand given the small nature of the studio. In the end, that's more of a yo, the music is good, give me more kind of thing, rather than a complaint. Speaking of complaints, the major one I had from the demo was about the combat flow. Now, in the early access, while I still ended up being stuck in some very long fights at times, things have gotten much better. The flow is much smoother, the enemy's AI thinks fairly quickly, and you can even change how fast their turns run through the settings. You can also change how fast the dice rolls themselves are. And as a very big quality of life feature, now you can also ready your actions, meaning that, for example, if you can't reach an enemy during your turn, you can set up an attack or an action that will trigger automatically against the first enemy that enters your character's reach, thus avoiding wasting time and turns. It would be even better if you could select which enemy to trigger these reactionary attacks against, but that's really a minor caveat, it works fine already as it is. Lastly, in my previous video, I had stated that I didn't know if there would be difficulty levels, and well, I can now confirm that they are present in the form of customizable sliders, so you can make your game as easy or as hard as possible. Onto the story, the portion that we get to experience is intriguing, but I will not be spoiling you anything about it. I will say though that there were also some moments where we had to make choices that would have seemingly altered the course of the adventure, both in the main story and in the side quests. It's early to say how it will develop, as I didn't really manage to predict what would happen next, but for now just consider me hooked. The characters that I met all had distinct personalities, and so far they've also felt well written. They are all fully voiced, and the voice acting itself has been great so far, which to be honest was kind of expected given the talents they hired for it, but it was surprisingly good for your own party members as well.
Oh, quick, silence everyone, the golden child speaks.
I suppose I should thank you. Whoever you are.
We're the Colwolds.
Oh, that's right. What was that password again?
8 circles make one?
What? Where did you hear that?
What's a tribune?
Oh, you really are new here. It's a high political rank. We're very... organized as a state.
Interesting. And senators are the highest rank?
Yes. And no.
So, what's in the box?
Just look. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I can trust you that much yet.
But you said it yourself. Jira wouldn't have given us the password if you couldn't trust us.
Facial animation could still use some touches and refinements, but all in all, they're good.
Yup. Akfa's my brother, for my sins.
I'm the older, sensible one.
I have no choice.
And speaking of party members, Solasta utilizes a companions system. What do I mean with that? Beside our 4 main characters, we will meet some NPCs that will be able to join us on adventures as extra party members. You can't level them up, as they will on their own as the story goes on, and you can't access their inventories to change their gear. Regardless of that, they turned out to be quite the help during some of the tougher combat encounters.
Neyorka, Igor, Malnis!
Now, as I didn't really find myself left with any major complaint after completing the early access, let's instead talk about some feedback I have for the game. These are all things that, for the most part, we can consider quality of life elements. I think they would improve the experience even further. First, UI toggles. Let me control my screen. I like the combat logo on the left side. I don't like how much space it occupies during fights. Right now it automatically hides when nothing is happening, but I would love for a proper toggle, something that lets me fully hide it and bring it back at will. Same goes with the tracked quests. Maybe a small button to condense or expand them. When I'm exploring it's great, when I'm in combat I prefer visual clarity. The UI is good, I just want more control over it. Secondly, more keybinds, and this one is pretty straightforward. We could use one for the loot all button when opening containers and corpses, one to make the highlight mode a toggle rather than a hold, and my poor gamer fingers would appreciate that one a lot. And lastly, keybinds for the dialogue options. They could be implemented in different ways. They could be numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Or it could be a scroll system with W and S, where we select the dialogue using a third button like F, for example. Speaking of buttons, we could use one that opens up the messages history while in a cutscene. I was kinda surprised to see it missing, because if you skip a line by mistake, the only way to reread it is after the conversation ends, going over to the log, or by reloading and going over the dialogue again. Thirdly, while in combat, I would like to have a way to stop an ongoing command if it hasn't been fully executed, because misclicks do happen, and it was a bit annoying to have no way to prevent them. A simple right click to cancel would go a long way, especially given the tactical nature of the combat system. And lastly, 2 separate small things. It would be cool if they added an extra category tab in the inventory for valuables only, and if they added filters too. Category tabs are useful. It would be even more useful if we could reorganize them, for example by weight, by value or recent acquisition. It would also be really cool if we had a way to fast travel outside of a map that we have already fully cleared, instead of having to walk all the way back, cutting the time it takes to travel to the world map by quite a bit. None of these elements are deal breakers for me, but they would definitely make for an even better game in my eyes. In conclusion, if you like what you've seen and decide to go into the game, just remember that the early access is not a finished product, so expect bugs and issues. Also, if you are expecting it to be a clone of Baldur's Gate 3 just because of the setting and looks, I would suggest you to drop that expectation, as the two games are fundamentally different. In Solasta 2, you are your party, all 4 of them. They are a family by the game's story, but from the player perspective, you should consider them all as an extension of yourself, and that's a big distinction from BG3, where we roleplay as a character amidst others.
Guys, come on. It might be a day to remember old times, but don't dig up old quarrels. We know where this goes.
And I suppose that's going to be my fault.
You really haven't changed that much.
All right, everyone, listen up.
Foundation for the game is solid. What's left to see is which direction things will go. Personally, I had a good time with it and I can't wait to play more. And that is all. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Let me hear your thoughts on the game. I'll see you next time.
I suppose I should thank you, whoever you are.
Cunning words used to avoid bloodshed. Impressive. But it won't always work. There will be blood.